AgriFutures Australia acknowledges the First Nations people of Australia as the traditional custodians of the lands and waters on which we live, learn and work. We pay our respects to past, present and future elders of these nations and any First Nations people on this webinar today. In particular, I acknowledge the Wiradjuri people of Australia, the traditional custodians of the lands and waters where AgriFutures head office is located in Wagga Wagga and where I'm hosting this webinar from today. To those of you who are new here, welcome, and to those of you who are returning, welcome back. Before we launch into things, I just want to run through a little bit of housekeeping. We're recording today's session and making that available through our online channels on our website. There will be an introductory poll pop up on your screen with some questions to gauge who's in the virtual room with us, and we'd be really grateful for your responses. Unlike other webinars, we've actually enabled your video and audio functionality so that you can engage with us and ask questions. Can I please ask you all to just ensure that your audio is turned off when you're not asking questions to minimise any noise throughout the webinar. And then a large proportion of today's webinar will be dedicated to question and answers. So feel free to hold on to your questions until then. Just a little bit about myself. I'm Caitlin Smith, as I said. I'm the research manager, part of the broader AgriFutures Levied and Emerging Industries team, and work with Sarika to look after the chicken meat research, development and extension program. The AgriFutures Chicken Meat RD&E Plan 2022-2027 has been developed to address the issues and opportunities facing the industry and to deliver the overarching vision of the chicken meat program to grow the long-term prosperity of the Australian chicken meat industry. As I mentioned, today's topic is talking about the advertised 2025-26 Research Open Call, and today's webinar is about the research priorities, and we'll answer your questions as they come in. Just in terms of ensuring that it's a transparent and fair process, chicken meat program, we're unable to engage in detailed project proposal discussions or project ideation. This also extends to the members of the AgriFutures Chicken Meat Advisory Panel. But certainly any questions that we can answer will be answered and published in the FAQ area on the AgriFutures Chicken Meat webpage, advertising this open call, which you'll be able to find within the next day on the website. We also have some members of the advisory panel on the webinar today who will be available to answer any industry-specific questions, but please note they may not be able to answer any questions if they are too specific. I might just get Richard and Brian just to introduce themselves if they can do that right now. Thanks.
Richard Shepherd's my name. I'm new on the advisory committee. My background actually is I've worked for many years as a cattle veterinarian, and I have an epidemiology and farm management consultancy. And so what I bring to the committee is expertise in study design and extension and economics and making sure the research is practical and achievable and can be done to the best of ability, and also to provide the best insights for industry. So that's my role. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Brian Estridge. My areas of expertise I bring to the panel are animal health and welfare, food safety, and in the sustainability space. Spent many areas in government and industry, and I'm working for a large manufacturer as a general manager in those areas currently. Nice to meet you all.
Thanks for joining, Brian and Richard. In terms of the process of the open call, I'll just quickly run through this, but it's a two-stage process that's designed to draw a wide range of responses and allow for refinement of proposals. So the first stage, which is what we're at now, is seeking preliminary research proposals, or PRPs for short, which requests high-level detail of your proposal. In terms of finding a guide to submit these proposals, that can be found on our website under the K2 Guides and Login part of the website. And that will provide screenshots that allows you to sort of follow along and get an understanding how to present your proposal. Then the PRPs, once they're submitted, they're addressed by the Chicken Meat Advisory Panel, and then those that are successful progress on to full research proposals, or FRPs, which is a bit of a more in-depth process. And in terms of, I might just quickly run run through the research priorities that we've got for this particular open call. So the first one is under priority 1 of improving environmental sustainability outcomes. I mean, there's 7 very in-depth requests under that priority, and I won't go through all of them because there's quite a lot of detail there. But if anyone, and I should have started with it, if anyone has any questions about the details of the of those specifics in the priority areas, please do let me know. The second priority that the open call is addressing is enhancing chicken biosecurity, health and welfare. And the third one is under priority 4, which is ensuring the food safety of Australian chicken meat. In terms of just timeframes, obviously we've got the webinar today. The end of period for questions or requests for information is on Tuesday the 3rd of June. So that's up to the point where you can ask questions of the program in terms of how to submit PRPs or any further details, and we can address them in that period. And then the open call PRP applications close on Tuesday the 10th of June at 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. And just please note, in terms of the evaluation criteria, that is embedded in the open call terms of reference, which you can find on our website. And I won't go through all of them, but it's a fairly detailed, it provides a fairly comprehensive idea of what we're looking for. So things like a research budget, the time frame, what's the problem or issue that you're addressing, and the benefits to the industry, among a few others. Without further ado, I think we might, I've just sort of provided a bit of an overview, and I thought maybe it's a good opportunity now to open up to the room and determine if anyone has any questions. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Sarah Purdy's got her hand raised. Caitlin.
Sarah?
Hey Caitlin, this is Sarah Purdy, New South Wales Department of Primary Industries. It was just a question on the wording in priority 1 for the priority of opportunities for bedding reuse within a circular economy. I was just wondering, is that to do with reusing the existing bedding multiple times within the sheds, or is it also to do with different end uses for the bedding after it's been used?
Thank you, Sarah, for the question. I would suspect it could be both, but I also might just open that up to either Richard or Brian to provide any further commentary there.
Yeah, look, it is both. Primarily when this was written, it was around not the reuse. There's lots of research already on the reuse, so it's more around other uses in the economy. But look, it can be both if you think there's opportunity in both.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Sarah. Encourage anybody else, if you've got any questions, to pop your hand up or turn yourself off mute. Also use the live chat as well, if that's easier.
I wonder, Caitlin, a question for people on the call. Is there anything which are people finding any hurdles to submitting research proposals? Is there any hurdles we can help reduce to encourage proposals?
Or any further clarity that you're requesting of any of the wording, as Sarah sort of asked previously?
Yeah, because it can be about the process, not necessarily what the research is, but in terms of the process to follow. I know that for people who aren't used to it, can be quite daunting.
It's probably also worthwhile to emphasise what we look for on the committee in a good application. And so one tip I would give everyone is don't just regurgitate the priority back in your application. Show that you understand the problem by using your own words and contextualising what you do. All that stuff is very valuable because it gives us insight that you've sort of got your head around the problem. Just regurgitating terms of references back is, that's basically wasting valuable space in your application. Use your own words, think about the problem, present it back to us in a convincing way.
Thanks, Richard. Good point.
I think just also the other thing I was encouraged is there's lots of people even on this call. I'd encourage cross networking. looking for ideas, asking if what industry needs. Obviously, conflict of interest, I can't talk to it now, but there's lots of good ideas out there, and I'd love to see more proposals come through.
Certainly, collaboration is encouraged.
Graham's got his hand up, Caitlin, if you wanted to check in with him.
Graham?
Yeah, hi, Caitlin. I'm new to this process. I'm University of Melbourne, and looking at a project in Gippsland, the growing broiler industry down there. Just a question about the K2 platform. As I say, I'm new to this. Is that something I can just sign up to as an individual, or would that have to be like the formal Melbourne University team that will assist me to post the application?
Yeah, it really depends on whether you're intending to submit the proposal as an individual or it's going under the University of Melbourne banner.
Well, yeah, I'll just jump in. It'll be under the University of Melbourne banners. It's just to go online and get the guide and things that you're referring to. Can I do that as an individual?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So what you'll do is you'll jump on to K2, which can be accessed from the Open Call website. There's a link there, and you will go into it and select, I think it says existing user, and you add a new person under that user, being University of Melbourne. So yourself as the project lead, I'm assuming, and then that gets captured by our team, and we approve that, and you'll get an email confirmation from us to say that that's all been sorted. And then essentially it's a matter of going through and completing the steps, of which there is a guide as well online to help you step through that. And then in terms of, it'll obviously have to also get signed off by the University of Melbourne as well from your admin contact as normal, but just would highlight that can take a little bit of time. So I would strongly encourage to get the research application sorted well in advance of the due date.
Sure. Thank you.
To see another couple of questions coming through on the chat. Can previously submitted applications that have been unsuccessful in progressing through to contracting be resubmitted to new open calls for research? Certainly so. I mean, one of the things that we would encourage is if there was any feedback provided in the initial application that was unsuccessful, if you could address that, that would obviously be fantastic, noting that potentially things might have changed between that open call and now. So seeking, industry support and advice is always encouraged, but certainly that wouldn't deter unsuccessful applicants in resubmitting, as long as those any areas to improve were addressed. There's a couple more questions coming through in the chat. One of them is, can you provide any guidance on the average size of funding applications accepted via the open call for research, and whether they should align to a certain funding band? Not essentially. In terms of the open call, it's very dependent on what we receive. So we don't have, while we have to obviously work within a budget, we don't necessarily say that only one, a project worth XYZ will get through. So it really depends on what we receive and what the pool is like. So that's one that I can't really provide too much detail on. But I can go back and have a look, and any further detail that I can provide will be in the FAQ when we post it later.
I think we can also add to that, Caitlin, say that what we look for in the applications is value. So it's the absolute magnitude of the budget's only one part of it. It's about what you plan to do, where it fits in, have you put together a compelling argument, does the team look like it can do the work, is industry ready, is it? So we're looking at value. So you have to express value in your application. And it sort of relates back to what I said before. If you can relate your research back to industry, the industry problems and how it will be applied, that goes a long way towards demonstrating a value. So there is no hard number, but it is a value proposition that we look at.
Good point. Thanks, Richard. Another question that's just come through is, can you give any further details on the food safety antibiotic surveillance priority? What organisms, traditional methods, molecular methods, molecular methods? Is this a one-off look or a multiple year project? That's probably one that one of the panel members might be able to ask, and feel free, whoever is happy to answer it. I can actually break down that question for you because that was quite a bit to digest.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I actually think we need to follow up on the website with that, just to be really clear, just in case I get it slightly wrong. But there is recognition that there was a report done in 2016 and 2021. So the key question there is, has the scope changed? Do we want more to look at? So I think we clarify that on the website or at a later comms.
Thank you. Thanks, Brian. Thanks for that question, Gillian. As Brian said, we will follow up and pop something in the FAQ section of the website. Question from Narelle is the food safety priority area around a survey for AMR the third repeat of the previous two surveys from 2016 and 2021? Does any of the panel members on the call know about this one?
Yes, I think that's what I was saying. So there is two surveys previously. We just need to clarify whether this is an exact replica or whether we're increasing the scope. Yeah.
We can also address that one in the FAQ section after the call. Thanks, Narelle. Another question, is a project regarding reducing antibiotics usage suitable for this funding? Brian, do you have any thoughts about that one?
Look, I think it comes back to a more generic question, is what if people have ideas outside the direct priorities of this open call? Caitlin, in terms of, I guess we always accept research proposals if they're slightly outside the priorities of the call, don't we? We would always consider them. It's just they won't be prioritised. But if you agree, Caitlin, I think my recommendation would be we would encourage proposals, even if it's not word for word what's in this.
Yeah, no, certainly. Sorry, I misinterpreted that question, and I probably could have answered it. But essentially, the focus areas are what the priorities are for this particular open call, but it doesn't mean that we won't accept proposals that align with the current RD&E plan. So if you can emphasise the alignment and justify its necessity, then certainly would encourage to put in an application. Thanks, Brian. Okay, that's all the questions in the chat. If anybody has anything else, feel free to unmute or pop something else in. Thanks for the great questions. They're really insightful and I'm sure help everybody on the call to get a bit of a handle on things.
Just one comment on, like, is that project, does it fall under the tram tracks or priority 4? We as a group can only think of a certain number of aspects there. There's a great amount of collective knowledge out there amongst you. So if you've got something that you think is actually relevant and aligned to the higher priorities, then we would welcome them. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to be funded, but, these are where the great ideas can come from. So we don't want you to obviously put too much effort into, that's why we have preliminary applications first. It's to see if the idea's got some merit. So if you have that, don't be afraid of putting them in, but make sure they align to the priorities. We welcome them, to be honest.
Yeah, and I'll back that up. I mean, we can't think of anything. So some of these comments in here from Dr. Jayant, they're all excellent ideas. So I'd encourage this sort of thinking.
Yeah, just on that, Brian, Dr. Jayant's question, question was, some of the projects in poultry sector are going on related to waste to energy, and there is potential to include ammonia removal from waste. Does this fit? Certainly would encourage you to pop something in. It certainly aligns with the focus areas. Felicity McIntosh, thanks for your question. It is the content of PRPs confidential? Certainly so. The PRPs are assessed by the Chicken Meat Advisory Panel at AgriFutures, and we're all bound by confidentiality agreements. So whatever is submitted in those applications stays within the advisory panel. So feel free, if something comes to mind afterwards, please don't hesitate to shoot the the chicken meat program team an email because as mentioned earlier, the period for open call questions doesn't close until a couple of weeks. I'll get the exact date for you. It is the close on the 3rd of June. So you've got about a fortnight until that closes. So I would encourage anybody, there's another question, got in quick. Is that possible on hatchery and day-old chick production? That is in relation to AA and energy balance. That's a question from Amir. Do you need some further clarification on that one, Brian?
Yeah, sorry, Amir. So I think what you're asking is the hatchery part of the chicken meat panel's considerations for improvements, and yes, it is. It's the whole integrated system.
Did that answer your question, Amir? Yep, perfect. Thank you. If anyone has any other questions, please, no problems. If anyone has any questions while I'm wrapping up, please don't hesitate to pop something in. But I will just, rather than continue to ask, I'll just start wrapping up. In closing, we'd just like to share the post-webinar survey that can be found on the screen. It enables us to sort of improve our webinar series moving forward. We'd really obviously greatly appreciate your feedback, as I said, to improve things moving forward. And then just a quick reminder, we will be providing links to the resources mentioned during the webinar, and would encourage you to have a look at the FAQ section on our website within the next day, where any of the questions that we needed to provide further context on will be addressed. I'd like to extend a massive thank you to our panel members who joined today's webinar to provide as much advice as they can. And thank you to all who registered and joined, as well as asked questions. We really appreciate it. As I mentioned at the start of the webinar, this session will be available online, and all the links to any of the resources will also be shared. And we all, obviously, just in wrapping up, we look forward to seeing all your applications. And if there's no other further questions, have a great rest of your Monday, and we'll see you at the next webinar, hopefully. Thanks. Bye-bye.